let's get to a bunch of questions we have here. And I would like to just add,
do you want some soy milk?
But behind our armada of brands and products here, this is
coconut milk. Excuse me.
Getting increasingly colorful to do calls in here. But
I think I'm going to help myself.
Go for it. So the first is, in terms of the upside, you obviously lay out. It really depends on this sort of roll-up strategy, if you will, to a large degree. In the current valuation, it seems like it's pretty rich, but do you think this is really the time to jump in here, or do you think you get an opportunity on the pullback?
Keith likes to say buy on red, right? So, I think that's a good strategy, but I can't, there are certain companies where you take a shorter term, trade or trend view. This is a tail stock for us. We first wrote it about a year ago. I don't know when the right time to buy it is, but I know they've got great growth prospects domestically, globally, the potential for acquisition, the potential to get bought. If it goes down, it's not going to go down very much. Mm-hmm. So, whenever that opportunity comes, I would take advantage of it if it comes.
So, do you think that consistency and from a management quality perspective, almost the simple fact of not having these big blow-ups as they continue to grow is a reason for them to have an even wider multiple range between them and Hain?
It's between the products management and execution. The fact that these two companies trade right on top of each other is crazy to me. It's crazy. Hain has this international business that's valued as an organic company, but it's not. It's anything but organic. They have a couple of GMO-free products and one organic product, but it is a traditional old-line food company,
right?
That trades at an organic multiple, and that makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Fair enough. And what's your view on margin growth? They've done a nice job expanding margins for the last several years. Where do you think it ultimately normalizes out in 5 years? Maybe it's 10 years. What do you think the ultimate ceiling is?
So there's a couple of dynamics to that. You have the the portfolio aspect and what they buy. I don't know what Dega's going to do to margins, but I think it's going to be margin enhancing, okay. Right? What happens to how quickly does China grow, and what do those margins look like? Do they actually consolidate the JV? So there's a lot of moving pieces to that, but I think if you just take the company as it is today in its current form, you can see 100 basis points of margin expansion over the next 12 to 18 months.
Okay. And private label is a big concern, especially in the dairy-free drink business. How will WWAV combat this pressure?
New products. So they're able to, and they're battling it today, and they're doing fine. One of the concerns now is private label almond milk, mm-hmm. And they're able to come up with new products, new initiatives, other plant-based drinks, and to drive volume growth in other areas. So, but it's a real threat, but I think they've done a great job managing it so far.
And so you mentioned the private label. Coconut milk, but so Starbucks obviously has run this trial offering coconut milk, almond milk at their stores now. Do you think this is actually a positive from an awareness perspective to consumers, or what's your view? Is this a non-factor?
Absolutely. The more people that get in this business and you have increased trial, mm-hmm. It can't be anything but a positive. My anecdote to that, right, okay. is 5 years ago.
We love anecdotes.
5 years ago, McDonald's got into the latte business, and everybody thought that was going to be a negative for Starbucks. All of a sudden, McDonald's started advertising latte. The next quarter, Starbucks volumes took off. So you have a big competitor creating awareness around a category. People haven't tried it; they're going to try it, and then they naturally gravitate to the number one brand in the category. So people went right to Starbucks, right? When McDonald's, people start offering an inferior product and you find a better product and you like it, it helps the category.
And when did Starbucks introduce that? Do you recall offhand?
McDonald's?
No, Starbucks with the coconut milk.
Oh, I don't remember. Sorry.
Okay. So international expansion. will be a key driver for growth in the future? Do you see them continuing to establish JVs or actually building out their own businesses?
So both, right? They obviously have a JV in China. I would imagine them to form joint ventures elsewhere. Brazil is a natural fit for them, I would think.
Yep.
But their company, they are focused, and the management team is focused on growing organically and creating new products and new categories.
Just to stay on the international view for a second, the whole health and wellness movement, if you will, at least here domestically, I think it's fair to say globally, each sort of community, country has its own view on that. How would you summarize the growth opportunity? It's not like just selling white tube socks in a bunch of different markets. This is it's also a mindset. So what is your view on the maturity of the different markets as we look at the opportunity?
Each country is a little different, right? Because, we obviously sell GMO products here, but in Europe, everything's non-GMO, right? So, there's this big shift to non-GMO products here. So you have that segment of it that's growing exponentially faster here that isn't happening elsewhere. So there's a lot of different dynamics, but that being said, this is a global movement, not a U.S. movement. Mm-hmm. People are looking to eat healthier, not just here, but in all of Europe, Asia. So this is a real shift in consumer consumption patterns.
Sure. And it's hard to escape sort of the visuals of just smog hanging over China and everything else. Does that actually drive people to want to be more healthy, or do they just they don't really care about what's going on around them or in them?
Another anecdotal evidence, right? KFC is struggling to a certain degree in China today. KFC is not a really healthy brand, and part of the thought there is consumers are looking for healthier alternatives in China. So, if that is an example of consumers shifting away from not a healthy brand and looking for other alternatives, it's happening everywhere.
Interesting. Okay. How do you view, in terms of they're acquiring sort of constantly here, but in terms of their overall beverage mix versus food/snack mix, what do you view in terms of the ultimate that you would like to see as this company grows out? It
really comes... I don't think I really have a view on that, to be honest with you. I would rather see them buy good businesses. And if it's strategically fit into their portfolio and they can leverage their expertise in the categories they're participating in, I think that's great. One of the companies that's listed in our potential acquisition targets is a pet food company. Frankly, I don't think they're going to do that, but I think that would be almost a slight negative if they did, because that's too far afield from what they do.
Pets need love too, Howard. What are sort of some of the most common concerns you hear from current shareholders in terms of what might derail the whole story and the success they've seen?
It's private label, commodities, valuation. In that order.
Okay.
And the commodities is a it's a black hole to a certain degree, because there's a lot of we have a lot of good data here on organic commodity prices, but that's a difficult it's a hard one to get your head around, because it's not like you can look at corn prices on Bloomberg every day.
Well, so to speak to the private label thing again for a second here, what's your view on branded versus private label in a category like this? Do people just see non-GMO, it could be made by, Harry's Sun Shack, they don't even care and they'll buy it? Or does it need to really have that brand recognition?
Well, I think I think it needs to have, Silk, for instance, is a great brand. So, you're going to have, the private label is going to have to really come in at a significant price point that's lower than, Silk for it to take significant market share. Mm-hmm. But across all categories in supermarkets, right, where private label, there's a need for private label, right? And it's going to be there. Yeah. I don't it's not going to steal, it's not going to get a 50% market share or anything like that. So it's not something that I pay attention to it because you got to look at the volumes and what it's doing to, the branded volumes. But the fact of the matter is, private label is just a fact of life. And it's not like their business is going to be destroyed by private label.
Sure. Well, and some of those charts you had were pretty striking in terms of the organic, cost input versus the CME.
Yeah.
So do you think, I guess, two parts. One, does White Wave do a good job communicating to the consumer that it's higher quality food, therefore they can pass through the prices? And two, I'd almost think that's a great defense against private label entrants.
Right. I mean, you've got your cost structure is going to prohibit people coming in and offering something at a huge significant discount, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of issues associated with that, and a lot of the store brands. Anyway, it's a debate that will go on.